Greetings, I'm Dr. Al Freeman, Education Executive for the South Wisconsin District. Welcome to National Lutheran School Accreditation How To Standard 4 on Professional Personnel. I'm joined by Rob Lunak
I'm Rob Lunek. I work here in the South Wisconsin District, focusing on innovation and improvement.
and Dennis Gerke.
Uh, I'm serving as the Assistant Director for accreditation for the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod.
Dennis has so many roles, it's hard for him to remember all the different things that he's doing all the
He's a
time.
pretty important guy.
Professional development, why Standard 4 matters? Why does Standard 4 matter?
Your teachers are really the kind of lifeblood of your school. They're why people decide to go to your school. They're why some people decide to leave. And their work directly results in the growth of the children in your building, whether that's academically or spiritually. And so you want to have really great personnel in your building. And most of our Lutheran schools are actually really blessed. We have fantastic teachers that serve in our building. So this is a lot of the times a strength for a lot of our accreditations.
I once heard a presenter say, your school is only as good as your weakest teacher. I'm not sure I totally agree with all of that in all situations, but it does emphasize the importance of having strong personnel.
Absolutely. I always point to studies that show outside of parents, the number one predictor of student success is the teacher. There's a significantly high correlation. After that is actually the administrator, because the administrator is hiring great teachers. And in our case, teachers who have a vocation. So it's about the ministry, it's about carrying academics, integrating faith in everything that we do through our coaching, our sponsoring of activities, and in the classroom material, the hallways, and everything else. So absolutely professional personnel, all of those adults in our schools who have roles and functions are so vitally important to the overall success of the school, the climate, the culture, the academics, and the success of the students that they pour into.
And Standard 4 is really about the structure around that. So the validation team is not going to come in and assess individual teachers. We're not there to sit in classrooms and tell you whether this teacher is effective or this teacher isn't effective. That is the administrator's job. The validation team, the accreditation in general, is focused on the structure around that supports effective personnel.
So when the validation team members step in the classroom, what are they doing if they're not observing the teacher?
A lot of the time we're observing the climate. And honestly, if you're a teacher on a validation team, you spend your first 5 minutes like looking at their bulletin board and how they organize their classroom and kind of taking good ideas that you see. We are there as validation team in the classroom to prove things you've written down, not to judge your individual lesson.
I like to watch the interaction between the students and the teacher. Is that a collegial interaction? Are the students awake? Sometimes that's something you observe when you go in. Are they focused? Are they in tune with what's happening in that classroom?
I always like to look at student learning, student engagement. Are they engaged with the activities and what's happening? What does that look like, climate, culture-wise, everything else? It really says a lot about the school. I always find, I say this all the time, our students in Lutheran schools are great, and they're great because of the relationships that are built with teachers and the collegiality of teacher to teacher, and the overall support from the administrator too. So much can be learned when you step in the classroom. So bottom line is, as a teacher, when I'm teaching and I see a validation team member step in my classroom, there's a lot that they're looking for, but what they are not doing is writing a report on me, the teacher, and giving that to the administrator and saying, oh, here's an observation. That is not what is occurring. I do like this bottom bullet point there. Strong personnel systems contribute directly to student success, the effectiveness of the school's gospel ministry. Teaching is a Christian vocation. Every faculty member and support staff person is called to serve with excellence as an act of worship. Not mediocrity, but excellence. And we're always trying to approach that. The school's personnel systems should reflect and support this calling. So what are those support systems and how does that reflect that? And notice it's every faculty member and support staff. there's a lot of people who make that school go. There's the janitor, there's the administrative assistants, there might be a school nurse, there might be a school counselor. And it's all of you working together. It's like a clock, and you need all the springs and the dials and everything else. And if something is misaligned, all of a sudden it starts working overall. So you need to make sure that all of these positions recognize their importance and their role that they play in the overall mission and ministry of the school. Required responses, these are the key questions that are looked for in Standard 4. Qualifications, recruitment and retention, what that looks like, professional development. And again, are you pouring into your staff and your faculty so they are growing professionally and personally as well? Evaluation systems, making sure that there's actually documents and that they are aligned with job descriptions, which a lot of times they are not. So that pops up a lot of times in evaluations. Support staff and volunteers, how are they supported? What are their qualifications? How are they supervised? And how that goes into the overall mission of the school as well. Required evidence, again, 2 items here, non-discriminatory salary and benefit scale or policy, and then staff development plan. These are always hot topics, I think.
Yes, particularly the non-discriminatory salary and benefit scale. What this required evidence is that you have a scale and you follow it, that all of the people on your staff meet that scale and how you've developed it. It doesn't say you must use the district scale. It doesn't say you must match the local public school system. It doesn't say that that it's at the levels of any variety of salary instrument. It says that you have an instrument and you use it. For example, question frequently comes up about the district guidelines, compensation guidelines. Many schools set their salary baselines at a percentage of the district guidelines, which is acceptable. It doesn't mean you have to be 100%, but you can be at levels striving to get to 100%, but that everyone is on the plan or the procedure that's laid out by your school.
Yeah, if you have this and you say, hey, we're going to be at 80% of district scale, everybody has to be at 80% of district scale. We've seen this a few times where somebody's at 90, somebody's at 75, somebody's at 100. If you have that benefit scale, the non-discriminatory part is the part they're looking at. Is it applied equally across the board?
Took the words right out of my mouth. That is the key element right there, is non-discriminatory. There's rhyme or reason. Now, your scale might be low, there might be work to be done or whatever else. Again, bring that up, recognize that if that's the case. The validation team will certainly bring it up, or they might commend you for your salary scale and your benefits and what's happening there. But quite important, the key word, non-discriminatory. Required indicators of success must be answered yes, even though it says yes or no. If you put down no, you have to create those and make sure that they're present before the team visit. Otherwise, you won't just be a provisional status. You will actually fail accreditation. So very important that these are all yes. And then evidence of agreement. You have some examples over there. It could be signed statements of faith. It could be an agreement during hiring process. But there's knowledge that you are in a Lutheran school and that you are promoting Lutheran identity and Lutheran doctrine is present. All school personnel, again, it includes teachers, support staff, administrative personnel, the individuals in the school there. It's also, I like that last bullet point there of evidence of agreement, consistent faith integration in classroom practice. And I'll also say throughout the entire school that there's consistent faith integration in all things that you do. Faith should be present. It should see that Lutheran identity of everything that's going on. I should see law and gospel present in all things that are happening in your school. Standard 4, general indicators. Again, this is your scoring of 1 to 4 based on the benchmarks that are laid out in each one. 402, teacher qualifications. 403, professional growth. And also, how are you providing for that professional growth and the expectation that your teachers are growing professionally? Teacher empowerment, support role qualifications, all of those come out. Personnel key performance indicators, just some examples of what a very strong system would look like. Teacher retention. In other words, there's a culture that's built there where teachers are thriving and growing, so they continue to stay at your school. Professional development hours, any licensure compliances. There's mission alignment that's there. There's support staff training. So sometimes you think at a school, oh, I as an administrator need to continue my education. I need to make sure there's professional development for the educators. But there also should be support staff training. How am I caring for my administrative assistants? What about the school nurse? What about the counselors? And then also volunteer management. There has to be coordination. It can't just be haphazard. They have to be know the mission and the ministry of the school and adhere to that and have expectations and evaluations that they are being successful in their role as well. Evidence and practice examples, again, all of these are there. Personnel files, a lot of times comes up, especially now that most things are digital. If I am on a validation team, what is the expectation for a validation team member who might be assigned to standard 4 to figure out personnel files and degrees and credentials?
One of you as an administrator should have a list of a lot of this to say, okay, these people have these degrees, these people have this credential, whether they have the LTE certificate or not. And then during the validation visit, they're going to want to look at the files, whether you keep those digitally or in a file cabinet in the office, because their job is to validate that you keep them. You can't just say we keep them, oh, they're confidential, you can't look. The role of the validation team is to look. And so you need to find a way to get them access to that, whether that's through your digital service or through the file cabinet in the office.
That has come up before where a validation team member will ask for access and the administrator will say, oh, no, that's all confidential. No, this is part of the accreditation process. So have that knowledge ahead of time. I'm going to have a validation team member ask me for a random couple of files to make sure everything is there. They won't look through every file, that's way too much, but they'll pull randomly a couple, 2, 3 files to see what the files look like and have certain expectations for that. If you have the old filing cabinet system, they'll just randomly open it up, pull a couple files, put them back in after they've looked at them. There's no copies, there's no concern in that. Validation team members are all trained in this process. If they are electronic, then that's going to be a time for you to sit down as the principal with the validation team member and randomly let them choose 2 or 3 files on your computer.
An important thing to remember is the validation team, they are going to be confidential with your information. They have to be confidential with your information. So they're not going to go say, I read through so-and-so's file and you won't believe what it said. That is not their job. That is not something they're allowed to do. So if that's a concern you have, we actually, when we go through validation team training, we make sure to protect against that very thing.
At one time, most Lutheran schools had close to 100% of Lutheran trained teachers. Those days are pretty much gone. It's very difficult to fill out a staff of all called members that have been trained. It becomes very important then is how do we ensure that the education that's going on at our school matches our Lutheran identity and teaches what our Lutheran doctrines teach. And what if we have staff members who are not Lutheran or not Lutheran trained, how are they brought up to date on what the church and school teach? So this is kind of a continually evolving section and becoming more and more difficult to maintain some of those, as well as having them match up with the proper proficiencies for the subjects that they're teaching.
So validation team interview questions. Again, I think this is administrator, this is a steering committee, helps you just overall see what you should be looking for, how to speak with your teachers, the support staff of expectations. prep time for all these different constituent groups. And again, I think as administrator, this helps me guide the school overall too. A lot of the times, these interview questions I see as the ability to utilize them to develop strategic plans too.
Mhm.
Questions I should be asking myself about the school to guide our growth and our forward momentum. Coordinator checklist and action plan notes. Again, assembling the personnel files, making sure I'm ready for that question. Growth plans that are out there, observations that I'll be asked to present to the validation team, planning time and master schedules and so on. In fact, the master schedule, it's great to have that and print that out because the validation team will need to know
Mhm.
what's being taught when and the teacher in each classroom and so on. So have that ready as well. It will be there in the self-study, but also have that ready for when the validation team comes and have hard copies in the room where the validation team will be doing their work. Salary scales, again, that non-discriminatory word, we can't focus on that quite enough because that's mandatory. It has to be there and have to show it's non-discriminatory. Remind the subcommittees that are working here, evaluate the system of personnel support, not individual teacher effectiveness. So again, the subcommittee that's overseeing Standard 4, they're not doing observations. They're not looking at, hey, I want to step into this classroom. I want to observe this teacher. That's not their role. Their role is just finding, is there support there, personnel growth, is there, plans and so on. Action plan tip, if professional development is inconsistent, build a formal multi-year staff development plan and put that in your school action plan and show that you're working on that. And again, the team will see that ahead of time because they'll have your school action plan as part of that self-study.
A couple other items that are hit in this section are what is done for mentoring of new teachers and also working teachers together, and collaboration. Is there opportunity during the school day for teachers to collaborate on how they're approaching different students and how even the subject areas?
That concludes Standard 4. Any final thoughts to help guide the school coordinator, the administrator on Standard 4?
Now, the last one I'll give is that we've hit on this a few times, but it's important to mention again, we're focusing on the structure and the system, not the individuals within that system. So keep that in mind as you work through this.
I'd also say think about subcommittee members for Standard 4. Make sure that you get a good cross-section of individuals who are knowledgeable in personnel development and growth. You might want a teacher and maybe a couple teachers. You might want a principal from another school, whether it be another Lutheran school or public school or something like that you want to put on that committee that might have that background and that knowledge ability to really look at your personnel matters. I think it's always healthy and helpful in this one, especially to get a real good cross section that can help you grow as a school. Thank you for joining us for Standard 4 of National Lutheran School Accreditation How To. We look forward to next time covering Standard 5 of National Lutheran School Accreditation.